Welcome to Richer Soul, Joel Gandera. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks for having me, Rocky.
Most welcome. We always like to start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
So for me, the journey from being a kid in Cuba and coming to the United States on a boat, growing up poor, it came with instant money lessons because as a little kid, you are entertained and you are lured by fancy things and toys. And I remember wanting a remote control helicopter right when we got here. And my parents didn't have a dollar. They literally had no money. They didn't have wedding rings. They didn't have glasses. Everything was taken from us in order to get on the boat. And so we came with the clothes on our back. No backpack, no purse, nothing. And so there was always a need. You always wanted something. And it's funny, today I'm not materialistic. I don't want things. But as a little kid, you want something. And then you instantly are told, there is no money. We don't have it. So you have to learn what money is. And the lessons along the way were that way. Fortunately for me, my parents were very hardworking and very frugal. And that was good because I had to keep learning those lessons. It's not like, well, now they have $1,000 in their bank account, they can splurge. They always told me, we're poor, we're trying to get ahead, we're trying to buy a house. They bought a house within 3 years of getting here. And then it was, we have to pay off this house. So all along the way, they were tight with it. They bought it and paid it off, I think, 7 years later. So that's what it was like. And I remember moments that were a little difficult. For example, my parents had just bought a house, and that was every dollar they had, and friends and family lent them a little bit extra. And even the local government lent some money because it was kind of government subsidized for you to buy. The day you sell, you have to pay it back. So we didn't have a refrigerator. We didn't have the money for it, but we had a cooler. And it had ice in it. And I remember going in the morning to look for milk, to go prepare my bowl of cereal and thinking, wow, we really are poor. And when you do that, not only do you learn about money, for me, it created a drive to now go make money. And I started making money at a very young age.
And that is one of the things, it's funny because it depends on how you grow up, but it also depends on how you react to that. In the sense that you used it to create grit to go be successful. Some people use it as an excuse to say, I'm not going to be able to do anything. This is my lot in life. And being very intentional in that. Do you remember living in Cuba?
I do. I was a kid. So I'm not very smart, but I have a very good memory. So I remember trips to the market. I remember playing in my neighborhood, going to my grandparents' house, the house, and company coming over. Yeah, so I have good memories as a kid. My parents had bad memories because they were adults and they knew what life was like. And, to what you said about you could take the situation well, there's another perspective that I've seen. Kids who grew up very poor grow up to splurge a lot. And I never got that because my dad would guide me along the way. You see, because we didn't spend this money, we were able to buy this house. Because we didn't waste that money, we were able to pay it off. And because of that, then they bought a little rental property, many years later. It took them decades to build it because they were in their 30s when they got here with no language and no good income. But that helped me see the path so that I wouldn't go and splurge the little bit I earned here and there.
So they were intentional then constantly in teaching you about money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of curiosity, do you have kids?
4 of them.
So surely they've probably grown up much wealthier than you did. Are you doing anything intentionally, though, to teach them the value of money?
Well, this hopefully will answer it. I'll run down the list. We've got 4 kids. 2 of them are seniors in high school, the older 2. The next one is in middle school. The next one's in elementary. My wife and I have been married over 22 years, or about 22 years. And so we have 18 and down. Our oldest just took out some money out of the bank, but he had $30,000 saved on his own. We don't give money. And he just took out $14,500 to buy his first used car, cash. And he still has the other half in the bank. Our 17-year-old has $12,500. He just showed me last night. And as you go down the list, they all have X amount of thousands proportionate to their age. But we don't give them any money. And we don't, especially once you're 16, you're financially independent in our house. That means your car insurance, your food money, your going out money. We'll buy some basic clothes and, roof over your head and the food here at home, obviously. how have we done that? How have our kids amassed this money at this young age? Ever since my kids were little, and I mean first grade, kindergarten, around there, they start selling. So our oldest is very entrepreneurial, and he has a relationship with a fundraising company, and he buys chocolates, a pallet at a time, thousands of dollars at a time. And he's been doing that since he was a little kid because he discovered that he could find them on Google, called them on his own, set everything up, just needed me to give a credit card or send a check. I forget how we did it. He pays me right back. He wholesales those boxes to his siblings, his younger siblings, and they go out and sell. My daughter at breakfast on this weekend sold $75 because we went to breakfast, my wife and I and her, and she sat it next to the table. The waitresses by, they let her go table to table and sell a little bit. Then she went to the barber shop next door and sold a bunch. So we teach our kids about money tremendously. I've laid out our profit and loss statements at the dinner table and showed them where we are with things and how we make money. And there are no financial secrets in our house. In fact, when our kids do a round of going to the bank to deposit, whether they go with me, I take them, or they give me their money and I take it and deposit, at that night's dinner, the deposit slips are handed out. And I make sure they write the teller writes the total balance and we read them out. And it's a celebratory moment to say, wow, you're at $18,000. Good job for your age. That means that you'll be able, and we paint the picture of you're going to buy a house. You're going to be able to rent out those rooms and it'll pay for itself. That's what I did when I was 22 years old. So I have a lot of stories to accompany it for them. So it's real. It's not put money away because one day, a rainy day. They're saving money for a sunny day, for all the opportunities that we are allowed in this country to do.
That's pretty incredible. And it's incredible that you continue to do that. One of the things I've known or noticed as an immigrant too is when we get success, we don't want our kids to have to struggle like we did. But yet in doing that, I think you're really undercutting the kids. I think you're taking away a lot of lessons from them that it sounds like you've held to that thing going, you're going to learn these lessons. And we've done much the same thing.
Absolutely. That's the way to do it. Look, I don't want to shelter my children from a little bit of knee scraping and a little bit of suffering, because if I'm about to fall off a bicycle and a magical angel holds me every time from hitting my knee, I'll never learn to ride properly. I need to scrape my knee a couple of times and go, that's not going to work. I got to figure something out. 2 weekends ago, it was during the weekend in the evening. My day was done. I was in my sauna in my garage, and my son called me, my 17-year-old, to tell me that he was on a date and that he's stranded. The car won't start. It's my wife's car. And I said, by any chance, because there should be no reason for that happening, by any chance, did you have the radio on and the car off or something, or the lights on? And he says, oh yeah, after dinner, we sat in the car and the car wasn't on, but I had the radio on and the lights were on. If I would have gotten in my car, which I could do, and drive over there, he would not have learned a lesson. So I said, check the trunk and see if mom has any jumper cables. And she did. And now find someone in that shopping center. Find somebody who'll go pull up next to you and do that. And he did. And he said it was the nicest guy. And he showed me how to do it. He explained to me that the guy asked him, what'd you do? Leave the lights on? And he said, yeah. So now he had to tell 2 grown men that he made the stupid decision. My son will never do that again. He's going to turn the car off, learn the lessons early. Absolutely.
That's cool. And it's good that you force him to make those choices and learn how, the kids now say, I'm learning to adult when they're in their mid-20s, right? Your kids are learning at 17 how to deal with life. And, it's funny because when my kids were at that age, they'd look at me and complain about stuff. But the moment they left home and they went to college, they realized what the differential was between them and everyone else from the standpoint of just knowing how to shop, how to cook, how to take care of themselves, and how to do all of that stuff. My daughter went to school in New York City, so it's, that's a big shift. And they did not have meal plans. They were living in apartments. They had to live on their own in New York City, and coming from a small town, big shift, but no problems. It's good that you did that.
Yeah, it's a gift. I think one of the biggest gifts we can give them is independence. And that's not luck. You have to work at it over time. My son is 18 years old, my oldest. In between junior and senior year of high school, just recently, he went to boot camp. He's a U.S. soldier now, even though he's still in high school. He's a senior. He's a sharpshooter with a pin on his chest. Very proud of him. And he serves 1 weekend a month already, even though he hasn't graduated high school. But when he was 18 years old, when he turned 18, he was at boot camp. And he wrote in one of the letters, Dad, since I was a little boy, you told me when I turned 18, I have to start paying $200 a month in rent. But I'm going to be here for the whole first month. Do I still have to pay it? And I wrote him back and said, no, you pay it the following month when you're actually here. Well, that's the last time we talked about it. And on that day, the first of the month, I received it. When I got up in the morning, I looked at my phone and it had a Zelle notification that Ryan Gandara had sent me $200. He programmed it. And here's the thing. You might think, wow, that's really mean. It's one of the biggest senses of pride that he has. I heard him telling his sister the other day, well, just so you know, I'm a grown man. I actually pay rent here. And he used that as, that's how he brags that he gets to participate in adult activities like that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You made a comment earlier that kind of slipped out. You said I'm not very smart. It doesn't sound like you're that's true.
I make good choices, I think. I'm not a genius.
There's only so many geniuses, and I'll be honest, most geniuses don't know how to run a business or make money, I guess, right?
Right.
They
Well,
sit in
I like to
laboratories.
encourage people that if a poor immigrant who failed school when he got here because he didn't know the language and grew up in poverty in a very bad neighborhood, made some bad decisions growing up, learned some lessons, and could still become a multimillionaire, retire early, have a beautiful life, then anybody could do this.
That is very true. And it's the same thing that I had a different upbringing, but the same similar concepts that, yeah, look, this isn't as hard as you think it is. I always struggled to understand why people had so much trouble with money. And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that people don't talk about money at home. And if they do, it's usually screaming and yelling. School doesn't teach money, right? And I have a Bachelor of Science in Economics and an MBA. We didn't learn anything about wealth building. It's just life, and it's no wonder so many people struggle. And then you put all the emotional stuff and the taboo, and
then
you've
when
got
you
yourself
don't
a
get
mess.
taught that and you make poor financial decisions, as is to be expected, then you get placed in life in scenarios that are not good. So your two choices, right? You have no money, you're late on bills and all these things. Now your two choices are bad. I like making good decisions so that my two choices are now good or better. So unfortunately, that's where people find themselves.
Was there a point where you shifted? You said, you grew up in a poor neighborhood, you made some bad decisions. Was there something that caused the shift towards the positive side?
Yeah. So I always worked hard. I started buying my own toys in fourth grade. I had a $50 month in fourth grade with profit on trading cards. And I bought myself a big transformer robot that cost me $50, with the biggest, nicest one. And so that I knew how to make money, but I didn't have role models. My parents did not know how to make money. They knew how to go to work and just pay the bills and save money. My neighborhood was very bad. Probably the best money maker was a drug dealer on the corner. And I never sold drugs, but I wanted to get ahead. And my part-time job, since I was 15 years old, I've been working since I was 12, off and on, whenever I could get something. But at 15, I got my first job that I went every day to work after school. I made $4.25 an hour. It was very hard to get ahead, making $4.25 an hour. So I discovered something at the shoe store that I was now working at, and I was 17 years old. I had a friend come in, and I handed him a few pairs of shoes, and he took them out illegally. I was stealing them. He was walking out with them, and I, as a sales rep, was doing that. Well, I turned 18, never got caught. It was 17 days after my 18th birthday. I got caught doing that with a friend, and I got arrested. And I have parents who are not about that. When they came to visit me, I said, please help me get out of here. And they said, you're on your own. That was a wake-up call. I've never stolen anything since I was 17 days after my 18th birthday. And one more thing happened. I said, I'll never steal anything, but I do have another gig. I'm loaning money with interest. At that point, I was 18 years old. I was a senior in high school. Started doing it. It was going well. Someone didn't pay me. So that same guy that I got in trouble with, the friend with the shoes, him and I went to pay a visit to the guy who wasn't paying me. And my friend broke his car window to send a message that you weren't paying Joel. You better pay Joel. We got caught. I was now 19 years old. I got in trouble twice doing stupid things to make money. Well, I don't think I don't think I've taken a stop sign since then, since I was 19, 30 years ago now. So those were pivotal moments, especially that second one. I put my head down. I started working like an animal, and I made a goal, and it really worked. I said, at 22 years old, I will buy my first house. My brother bought one at 23 to get out of our parents' house, so I wanted to beat him. And at 22 years old, about 3 months before I turned 23, I bought my first house, kept the master bedroom for myself, rented out the other 2 rooms that paid my mortgage. And I did that. And the next year I bought another house, the next one, another. So I got up to 4 houses. I was 25 years old, doing pretty good. But with all up and down stories, 2008 hit and I lost a lot. But anyway, yeah, that was a turning point for me, hitting rock bottom. Had my parents bailed me out, I wouldn't be where I am today. They said, you're on your own.
And I guess that's why you treat your kids the way you do.
Yeah. And I also told my oldest boys about this happening, what I did to myself, getting in trouble like that, because I want them to avoid that. And I've also taught them how to make money. They know how to. My son called me from school today and said, I've made $80 in commissions today during his lunchtime. And it's because a cousin of his he's older, owns a company selling drywall. And my son said, if I put a post on Facebook and I start getting people to go in to buy drywall from you, will you pay me commission? He said, absolutely, 5%. So my son's been hitting $80, $90, $120 days while he's in high school, because he just puts a post and he texts back and forth with the people, gives them the address, tells them to go in, and he's earning 5% on drywall sales. So, I don't want them to fall down the bad decisions I made. I show them where the opportunities are. Now they know how to find them on their own.
That's nice. And I think that's another thing. I think if people learned how to make money on their own, they would have a lot more freedom to make the choices they choose to make, instead of picking opportunities that don't suit them, or because they have to, or because that's all that's available to me. But clearly, if a bunch of immigrants can come here like you and I and have millions of dollars, then why can't you? And that's
Right.
kind of always been the thought process.
I think it's what you said. It's kind of the conversations. It's with your parents being open about money. It's not out here. And money's a taboo. For some reason in the United States, it's so taboo. I don't have an issue with money. I like talking about it. I love making it. I love having it. And I don't like spending it. Honestly, I like buying a nice house in a nice neighborhood. I don't like going crazy with money. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because my definition of money, every dollar to me is a freedom point. Every point that I've amassed and that I planted like a tree that keeps making me passive income gives me freedom. I don't have to worry about my kids growing up in that bad neighborhood I grew up, because we all have freedom thanks to the money.
It is. It gives you the ability to make choices. And that's really what it comes down to. I noticed you've spent a lot of money on developing yourself and in self-development. When did that start?
So interesting. Let's see. I've never thought of when it started. I know that I was reading a lot of books, and that started in about 2008. I read The Secret, and that book got me thinking really positively and moving in the right direction. In fact, I want to say that I can't credit one book for everything, but that book got me on a path where within 8 years, I went from maybe making under 100,000 for sure to making over $1 million a year. Net profit, my earnings, not with partners, just my own. And it was from starting to think positively and seeing some benefits to that. And then that led to the next book and the next book. And so reading a lot, and then going to events and seminars, joining Entrepreneurs Organization, which, has a sizable fee to be a member. I've easily spent, $250,000 on self-improvement. And now once you get into it, you can never stop. You want to keep learning. So yeah, my steady small expense are books. And I do Audible books. I'll go for a walk, a jog, a bike ride, and I'll listen to books and really enjoy that.
Yeah, there's some books I listen to, and then there are some books I want paper.
Sure.
Certain books I think I got to hold in my hand. Certain books I'm okay with and you got to do what works for you. Everyone's different, and that's
Right.
what I've learned. Figure out what works for you, do it, and then go make it happen.
Yeah. And it's not just to listen to a book to listen to it. That's similar to procrastinating. If you just want to hear 1,000 books, I take action from every book that I read. Otherwise, it wasn't a win for me. Everybody wants a nugget. Sure, a mental nugget that got you to think differently. That's fantastic. But if I could apply it into an action that I could start taking right away, to me, that's a very valuable book or seminar or coaching experience or whatever it is that I did that day for improvement.
Nice. So, speaking of books, you wrote a book. What inspired you to write the book 31 Days to Becoming a Better Man?
Yeah, so this wasn't a business attempt or anything. I had my apparel company, my warehouse fulfillment company, everything was going great. And I found a book that a friend recommended, and it was a challenge book. And I did it on my own, and I did all the days. If it said to do jumping jacks, I did them. If it said to write a letter, I wrote it. I did everything. I found a lot of benefit to it. And I offered that book to lend it to a friend, and he said, so, a vendor of mine. And I lent it to him. And months later, I asked him if he did it. And he said, no, I haven't done it yet. Months later, still hadn't done it. A year later, I asked him for the book back. And he says, no, I don't remember you lending me any book. Well, that's weird because I know I lent it to you. A few years later, he called me and said, hey, I'm moving out. And I found that book you were talking about. You did lend it to me. I went and picked it up. He wasn't able to bring it to me. So I drove over to pick it up. And as he handed it to me, I said, did you ever do the book? He goes, no, never got around to it. And that upset me so much because it brought so much benefit to my life. And I know that this person would have greatly benefited from doing it. That as I'm driving home, I'm one to take action. I'm not one to sulk. I can't believe he did that. I need to tell more people to do things like this. So before I got home, I had, 18, 20 guys on board. We picked a start date. They all went to go buy the book. I sent them a link and they did it. We all did it together and we formed this group. And then as we were doing it, some of those were former coaching clients of mine. They all said, why don't you write a book? Because on the finance day, on the health day, your lessons are better. And they convinced me. I wrote a book and now it's an actual business. Now 24 guys at a time go through with me for 31 days. And it's to do that, to become a better man. And what do we work on? Relationships with whomever is in your life, your health, your discipline, your decision-making, your finances, the food you eat. And that's what we do. We go through. And so I wrote it because a bunch of guys said, I like the lessons you've taught us in the past. You write it. And it was a great opportunity. And every day I'm grateful that I listened to them and it worked out.
Those sound like the same tenets we talk about here on the podcast week after week.
Excellent. Then I'm a good guest for this.
You're a perfect guest for this. My question, though, is how much can you change in 31 days?
If you asked me that 2 years ago, I'd say probably not. Probably just a minor change. Look, nobody has to take my word for it. I've got testimonials on my site. I can get 20 guys on a call in a drop of a hat who will say, yes, this changed my life. When you take 31 days, and it usually starts happening around day 7, people say something's happening. I don't know what it is. We don't have an introspective world. We're receiving noise from everywhere, stress, adrenaline. We're worried. We're anxious. We're listening to the news. We're going down a bad path. And all of a sudden, you're going to take 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day to focus on you in a quiet place. Something starts happening. And then once you start getting it, and then you're doing it in a group with a bunch of other guys who are also doing it, who came into the program saying they had all these challenges. And all of a sudden, these challenges are starting to look smaller and they feel more confident. So I see it working every single day. This stuff really, really works.
So out of curiosity, is it something different that you talk about in the book when it comes to these different areas and focuses? Or is it what's more commonly known out there? Do you think there is something different? Or is it just doing it?
Yeah, so my reading in my book, every day you read one chapter. You read day 1, then you read day 2, but you don't read ahead. And there's only 3 to 5 minutes of reading a day. That's it. I have no groundbreaking inventions. All I've done is put together 31 lessons that have changed my life. And by doing them consecutively, day after day, look, there's a physical element to it. You got to do push-ups every day, or you got to do air squats. We alternate. and you have that consistency. You say, you know what, it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm ready for bed. Oh, I didn't do my push-ups for today. And you get out of bed and you go do them. I did not invent the push-up, but I invented the bringing all these different lessons together and the discipline and the camaraderie and the brotherhood and accountability that we form in the group, that over and over, these guys are telling me that this is changing their life. Look, here's how impactful it was. We had an event at my house after a few classes were finished, and guys either lived near me locally or some flew in, and I met a lot of wives. And a couple things stuck out at me. One said, I want to thank you because you just gave me back the man that I married 20 years ago. I hadn't seen this man in the last 20 years. This guy spent $200 on my program. That's it. And $20 on a book. And he did the work for 31 days. And she's saying, this is the man, the one who I was excited about, who was excited about life, and he's back. So that changed, that hit me so hard. Another one is a woman said, whatever you did to my husband, I want you to do that to me. I want to get life by the horns and be so excited about life. And I said, I'll never teach a women's program. I can teach men. Well, after many women saying the same thing, I think we counted about 26 women said something like that. My wife joined, wrote a book. She's an amazing woman, and she's got a book and has a women's program, and it's also changing lives.
So, I mean, what is so special that in 31 days people change so much?
Again, I really think it's looking inside. No, because nobody does this. Look, we all live in this world where it's constant information. We're just being told things. There's noise, there's propaganda, there's media, but never are you told to just, hey, let's turn it off for 20 minutes. There's a little bit of work you need to do. What programs are saying, what news channel is telling you to turn off the news? I haven't heard news in 8 years. I haven't seen one report. I don't listen to noise. And tells you, turn it off, guys. Go get a pad of paper and let's talk about these insecurities you might have or these feelings you might have. I don't know when that happens. And if it does, maybe it's one day at a seminar and you work on this one thing. My program does this for 31 days. It's not the whole day. It's about 20 minutes a day in total. Counting the 3 to 5 minutes of reading, you're only spending about 20 minutes. And it's that habit. Maybe you could pick some other 31 lessons and they'll be just as powerful, maybe more powerful than mine. But this is working.
You know, it's funny. Every couple times a week, I get on Facebook and I go live and I share Epictetus. And today's Epictetus was happiness can only be found within, right? And the message was, look, everyone is looking for something outside to make them happy. Fancy car, fancy house, fancy clothes, whatever. I'm like, none of that's going to make you happy. You know, if you can't find happiness inside, regardless of what's going on outside, then that's a problem. And it's funny because I have noticed most people are spending all their time outside. They're on social media or they're looking everywhere but within for the answers. And they're following somebody else's plan or trying to be somebody else or none of that. Instead of saying, hey, I'm amazed at how many people don't define their own life plan and work on what it is that they want. And you start telling people to do this, and a lot of them are just taken aback, like they're scared of it, which is like, seriously?
Yeah. So I have a chapter, one of the days, it's called 10 years. And that day you're writing one page, nothing complicated, or type it out, a day in the life 10 years from now. So if it's about you, Rocky, you'd say, I am this many years old. It's 10 years from now. My wife, my kids, they're all this old. This is where we live. This is what our life is like. And here's what we might do on one given day. It's a quick piece of paper. I've done this exercise with my forum before away on a retreat. And it's powerful because you never do that. When are you even told in school to sit down and focus on what life might be like 10 years from now? We know all the things they don't teach you in school. Those are a lot of things that I focus on. And it's exactly what you just said. You're looking within. This isn't my plan. I'm just this guy named Joel who put some words on a paper in a book. Guys get to now go in there and it's their life. It's them. And they're the star here. They're not the Netflix fanboy watching some movie on Netflix. They're the star. I think that's what we need to do. Turn TV off and go become the star in your own life. And that's what I think I'm empowering them to do. And that's why I think they're saying that it's so impactful in their life.
What are some of the other things that you talk about in the book that are not taught in school?
Yeah, there's a finance day. I have to pull up my, let's see. There's a challenge yourself. Go sign up for something. It could be a 5K. It could be a marathon if you're a runner. It could be a competition in martial arts. It could, whatever. It doesn't have to be physical even, but it's to sign up for something. There's a, well, let me give you this one. There's a day about planning a date with your spouse or a girl or whoever is in your life. But it's not just a normal date. It's a multi-part date that when the guys do it, they always come back to me and say, my wife said this was the most amazing date. And it didn't cost that much. You know, I spent $100, $120, and she's still talking about it. I don't want to get into the details. I'd rather guys go through my program with me and build a relationship with me, and I'll share that. But
yeah, I'm not looking for details. I'm looking for like the big picture of, you know, we don't teach this in school. We don't teach that in school. Well, and these are kind of the concepts.
Yeah. And one of the favorite days for me is financial clarity. In financial clarity, you need to treat yourself like a business, first of all. I think every family should have like a P&L and a balance sheet and understand that. And so what I have them do that day is create a family balance sheet. This isn't about statements coming in through the mail or email and they're all over the place. It's actually unify this in one place. You should be able to give me your net worth at any given moment, right? Even if it's just every 3 months because statements come in and you update them. And, you know, there's automation and all that, but I make it very simple because I want people, I love it when the young guys in the program say, oh yeah, I discovered there's an app and it puts everything. Great, go for it. I use a Google Sheet, right? So I keep it all and I update it old school way, but I love it. I can tell you at any given moment, my net worth. I don't have any debt. I don't even have a mortgage. I bought my house cash, but I get to see all my assets and how much they fluctuate. And then I get to see what the sum of it is and get to see my net worth. Some of the guys in this program weren't even sure what net worth was. And they're successful executives, they're successful guys, and they weren't sure what that meant. Before we started recording, you were telling me about some of the things you find out there and how successful business people don't know their numbers. They don't know their business numbers. You think they know their personal number? They don't know that either. So it's a day to sit down and put all that together.
And you have to. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if you want to become wealthy, you have to understand your numbers. It's not difficult, and I think we make it more cumbersome than it needs to be. But it isn't that difficult, and you just have to do it. And the same thing, I know you talk about health. Yeah, it's funny, all the way through college, I think everything I was taught about health is wrong. Even if you read all the government USDA, this is what you're supposed to do, I find it all to still be wrong. They give you bad information, so to speak.
You take that food triangle, just flip it upside down. That's a better way to do it. You know, the bottom is full of grains and wheat and bread. For most of us, we don't benefit too much from eating all that sort of thing. But the government thinks in that same thing that Fruit Loops and high sugar cereals, high fructose corn syrup, that those things seem to be fine. But oh no, don't eat eggs. Humans have been eating eggs for hundreds of thousands of years. I eat them every single day. I also eat steak every single day. I check my blood regularly, and I am in tip-top shape. I'm 48 years old. I train jiu-jitsu 5 to 7 days a week. I lift weights 3 days a week. I jog a couple times a week. I do yoga. I'm in great shape. And it's not just the things I do. The way that I eat allows me to do those things. So in my group, we bring in health experts. We bring in all kinds of experts to chat about those things. And the new ones who have it all together, they get it. And they tell us the same thing you just said. Don't listen to the government recommendations. They're all wrong.
They are. And they're constantly saying fat is bad. And then if you look at what they serve the kids in school, it's no wonder we have the problems we do. They're teaching them how to eat wrong.
Yeah, and the things we're buying them at home, too. The chips, the seed oils, all that stuff are killing our kids and causing behavioral problems. We feed our kids very healthy. We don't have behavioral problems.
And that was an argument I used to have with people when my kids were young. And, you know, information's gotten better, but people looked at me weird when I talked about what they were putting in their kids' mouth. And the need not to drug them, so to speak, for a variety of things. So we've talked about money, we've talked about health. What other areas of focus are in the book?
Relationships with our kids, our spouses, our friends. There's a day where we take inventory on our friends. So if a guy has a business, he'll take inventory in the warehouse. But when have you ever sat down on a piece of paper and put your friends into quadrants? So number 1 section, which is very limited. Number 2, have a few friends. 3 has more. 4 is our acquaintances and people we know about each other. And we do a little work. We go deep on who's in the number 1 spot and why. So if you want to imagine this as a circle, you're in the middle. 1 is that ring that really influences you, really close to you. To be honest, number 1 is the guy that you call and say, you call him at midnight and you say, I need you to get in your car. I need you to bring a shovel. We're going to bury a body and we could never talk about this ever again. And that guy says, I'll be right there. That's a number 1. Other than that, that's not a number 1. So what this allows guys to do, Esther, they sit down and they write these, and I give them parameters for what's a 1, 2, 3, 4. That day has a lot of people questioning themselves and saying, I can't believe I've let these people into my number 2 spot. I'm going to start making some shifts. And you might have a 3 or a 4 that should be in the 1s and 2s spots. So what do? We don't just wish it. We start building a relationship. Invite that guy out to go play basketball or go for a walk or for coffee. Send him a quick text saying, hey, how you doing? How have you been? How's the family? Build a relationship. This isn't this stagnant thing. A number 2 is not a number 2 forever. You decide if they become a number 1 or should we move down to a number 4. So that's one day that I think is very crucial. And there's more than that, because there's a day to focus on children. If you don't have any, then I say focus on your parents, or I give them alternatives in case they don't match that. And the big one is the spouse, because it is very difficult to have a bad relationship at home and be succeeding anywhere else in your life. So that's a very big one that we focus on.
Well, even if you do succeed in your life, if she leaves you, she's taken half of it. So
that's
what
right.
was success is
That's
no
right.
longer
That's
success.
Right. And
right?
I mean, how happy can you be overall if you're killing it at business and you come home and it's a depressing environment? I don't have that ability to silo emotions and parts of my life. For me as an entrepreneur, it all blends together. So I want all of it to be as harmonious as possible.
And I think that is one of the big things that you see with successful people is while they may have success in their career, the rest of their life is a mess. And their kids don't talk to them, their spouses are, and then you go through divorce, which knocks you off your game for a couple of years, and in all of the hassles of that too.
Yeah, that's sad. It could be avoided. A lot of that could be avoided.
Do you find people are resistant to take the challenge?
Yeah. So whenever I've had somebody who's done the program and they tell me this was absolutely amazing, how could I get asked this a lot. How could I repay you? I always say, you don't have to repay me anything. You paid $200 for the course. Glad to change your life. But if I could ask one thing, tell some friends. I want to keep bringing more people. I want to impact personally 10,000 men before I call this quits. And we just started. So I've been introduced to people who say, hey, can you talk to my buddy? He's thinking of doing the class, but he's not too sure. And I highly recommend it. And I just told him to talk to you. So I've had some of these phone calls. And the number one excuse, they're all excuses, is, look, I just don't have time. And I remember one man who told me that. And he explained, and I usually can call out BS and find excuses. But when he told me what his day is like, I go, man, you really don't have time. You really are busy. If everything you're telling me is how it is, I don't think you can do it. Surprise, surprise, he signed up. That day I saw the email come in. So-and-so just signed up. He's in your next class. Okay. That man, till this day, every time I talk to him, says, I was mistaken. I thought I didn't have time. We have a day on being efficient and effective. I ran a company that made me 7 figures net profit, and I was working 4 hours a week. How? I developed systems. I have a team in India that wrote all the technology that automated everything that we do. I had in one glance on my phone, I could see sales. I could see how our warehouse is doing. I could see every website of the 14 websites we had. I could see everything at a glance. And I didn't have to be there. I didn't have to stress over. I didn't have to ask stupid questions. I could see all the data. We programmed all of that. That's being effective, I think, because I got right to it and it's very efficient. We ran a warehouse and we wrote code for software that ran our warehouse and told people where to go, what to pick. Early on, when most weren't doing this, people were still using paper and we were scanning and being way more efficient. So that day we focus on that, on how to be more efficient with your time and be a little more proud of your time and not say, yeah, every time everyone tells me to do something, I'm going to go run and do it. No, I have this time to work out. I give myself 25 minutes as an example this morning. I'm going to work out and I'm going to push it through. But it's not 25 minutes of doing a couple of sets and then playing with my phone and then doing 2 more sets and then goofing around. No, I'm going to be effective in the moment that I am doing that thing. And all of a sudden, the day feels longer and you have more things to do.
It's funny. My buddy at the gym is always mad when people are on their phone. He's like, "You're holding up the equipment. Get to
That's right.
moving."
That's
You're
right.
like, "We're working on it." No, you're not working on it. You're looking at your phone. And it's amazing how much time gets wasted.
Yeah, you want to
And
save time? Do that chest workout. And then if you can, go switch and do the legs while your chest is resting. Go do that other thing. And in 12, I've had the best workouts in 12 minutes. I brought men to my house. I have a full gym here. And we've done these workouts in 12 minutes and they're beat and they go, this was amazing. It was 12 minutes. Everybody's got 12 minutes.
well, and I learned that early on is the alternating set. So while I'm resting on this body part, I'm working on that body part.
That's
So I do that constantly to go back and forth
good.
and to be able to do that. And you can get your sets done relatively quickly and you move along. And
Yep. No excuses.
life is pretty simple. For whatever reason, doing simple is hard for most people.
Yeah, we all know what to do. You want to lose weight? Do this. You want to have more money? Do that. You want to follow the people who know how to follow them? Just do what they tell you. Look, I had a job selling cruises when I was in my 20s. It was my last job. And my first month, I hit their prized Century Club. If you could sell 100 reservations. This is a cold calling center. It was aggressive calling. It was hard. And my first month, I hit that. And it put me in the top 20 out of 550 people. And it was my second month I did that. And people kept coming up to me and saying, how are you getting so many bookings? How are you doing this? And I would tell them the formula. I'd say, here's what I say when I call. As I'm talking to them, I'm writing them a beautiful handwritten card, putting some business cards in there. I'm putting it in, I'm mailing it. And then I'm putting the reminder 3 days later. By then, they should have gotten my letter in the mail. And then I'm calling them, and now they're a warm lead. They're my friend. And you got to do this. And the cards are supplied by the cruise line for free, your business cards, your mail, your stamps, everything. And then I'd look over the next day after I guided that person and gave them my experience. And I'd look over, because at the end of the day, on the desk, you could see how many letters they mailed. I'd always have an inch or 2 inch stack of letters I mailed. They wouldn't have any, or they'd have one. And the next day they'd come again. I don't know, it's not working. And I'd say, I don't see any letters. You're not sending. Yeah, you're right. I'm not sending the letters. And then I think, okay, great. I got through to them. The next day, no letters. They wouldn't do the work. It's that simple. You have headsets on and you're talking to them. So as they're talking, you're filling in the quick thing. Hey, it's going to be my pleasure to help you. Give me a call when you're ready, and put some cards. And you're flicking the envelope. You stick it on, put a stamp, ready to go. I don't know. I still don't understand that disconnect between I want to accomplish this thing. I'm going to do the action, but then not doing the action. I don't understand. Then you know what? It's fine. Not everybody has to accomplish the same thing. Stop saying you're going to accomplish this thing. Go say, I'm happy where I am, and this is where I'm going to stay for the rest of my life. That is honest. That's sincere. I prefer people do that.
So you don't have the magic answer of how to get them to do that.
I can only lead by example, continue to show them, because at that job, every time we sold a reservation, you put up a flag. My desk would be full of flags every day. They could do the math. They'd say, wow, Joel made $800 today, and I made $80 today. Do what I'm telling you. Some might follow along. It's a minority. But the thing I think is that I found is that when a guy pulls a trigger, puts his ego aside, and does something, I'll use myself as an example, does my program, then they made that decision already, and that's enough to them for them to come in with an open mind. And it doesn't have to be my program. It could be any other program that is built to improve your life.
So we have a lot of business owners who listen. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from my clients is getting their people to do what they're supposed to do or what they say they're going to do. How did you deal with that? You built the company, you were highly successful. How were you able to run it on 4 hours?
Mm-hmm. So we built systems in place where everything happened. We were designing. We had 21 brands of underwear, swimwear, athletic apparel. This is designer stuff, expensive. We would design it, approve it, produce it, photograph it, load it onto Amazon, eBay, Walmart.com, all of our 14 websites, and ship all day. Thousands of pieces every single day we ship. 5 to 6 days a week we were shipping. We did all that because it was a system. There was no person in my organization could say, nope, I'm going to do it this other way. The system works this one way. When the samples are produced by our designer comes up with them. Our sample makers made the samples. These are all steps, right? So the next step is the samples got sent to our office. They got approved. How did they get approved? Hey, you've got 24 hours to the employee that I had 24 hours to go through that spreadsheet and just see if the products are in line with what we offer and the prices are in line. Honestly, that's a 15-minute job. But when it comes in, boom, look at it and approve it. It's approved. Well, we now have to have copy written to describe the products. Production begins. Our team overseas would level everything out, but it was just everything that we did was a process. You couldn't break it. When our guys were picking orders in our fulfillment center, the tablet would tell them where to go. The guy can't say, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. No, the next order you're going to pick is here in this location. Go to that location, open the box, scan the product. Until you do that, it will not give you the next command. Oh, by the way, the clock's ticking. We would measure performance on how many productive scans you have per hour or per minute, per time. And we could see who are the best employees. So we prize those best employees, and we could let go of the ones who just weren't up to speed. Before we had that technology, you could have asked me, of our 5 full-time people picking orders, who's the best one? And this actually happened. I thought it was this kid. I go, he's the best one. He's always busy. He's running around. Guess what? Once we started measuring by scanning, because we put in technology years ago, he was the worst one. And because we put in that technology, we didn't need him anymore. And it was perfect because we saw it on the board. We said, well, he's the fastest. I didn't know that. He's the second fastest, third. This guy's the weakest. I thought he was the best because he was a good small talker with me. He would shuffle papers a lot. That was the best feeling when I got to let him go. And I got him hired at another company because we chose really good people so that when our worst ones were still good. So I got a friend to hire him and he worked with him for years. And then we told our employees, hey guys, we are now measuring your productivity now that you're scanning. And guess what happened? They all picked it up so much because we told them we were measuring it. That 4th person at the bottom, we got rid of them. We didn't need them. They all picked up their efficiency. We were down to 3 guys. And then we said, one more thing, guys, we're going to put a TV on the wall in the warehouse. You're all going to see your speeds at every given time. Any moment live, you're going to see who's fastest. And they'd be fighting. They'd work so well that we got rid of the 3rd person. We went from 5 pickers by putting in a little technology to 2 full-timers who were our absolute best. We then went to 100% medical. We paid all their medical insurance. We gave them 4% matching. This is warehouse workers. 4% matching retirement. We gave them all raises because now we were down to 2 people. Productivity went up. We started selling more. We still had the same 2 people. That's a lot of efficiency with the same 2 people. And that's how we got them on board, by incentivizing top performance and cutting out the bad people who shouldn't be there.
And that is the key, is accurate measurement that is truly reflective. Because as you said, I think too often in our head, we think X. And when you actually do it and you measure it, you see Y and you have clarity. You asked me about the question that you asked Mike Michalowicz before we hit record. This is what that is. It's literally the concept of, you said you're going to do X. Did you do X? And do the measurements actually prove that you did what you said you were going to do? And you can be disciplined, but the numbers don't lie. And for most businesses, everything comes down to numbers. And the better you can measure it, and everyone has a number that they are clear on and they can see their progress on, and they can compare to others, then it becomes much, much easier to measure and to compare to others.
Yeah. You're not going to make decisions on murky data. You need clear numbers. And with the clear numbers, you make very good decisions. Imagine your competitor making those clear decisions and you're kind of confused. You're going to get beat every day. But if it's the other way around, I felt like we were leading that charge on that clarity. And it doesn't take a genius to make good decisions when the data is very clear. And I think some of my competitors, because by the way, I bought 14 of them before I rolled it all up and sold my company, they weren't anywhere near making good decisions based on data. They made emotional decisions, they made confused decisions, and that was all to my advantage.
No doubt. And I see that all the time. Is there anything we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
I think we covered quite a few things. We can always go in tangents on directions. I've done presentations on how to develop strong and independent children, deep into my story where I go into some lessons that I've learned in life. We could always go in 100 directions. Two guys with passion like us, I think we could talk for hours.
That we could. That we very, very much could. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
For me, and everybody's different. There's not one formula for everybody. My life is full of abundance, and the abundance isn't just financial because I've made money over the years. It's an amazing relationship with my best friend, who's my wife of 22 years. We're on the same page. We go on dates all the time. We have a great relationship with our children. We live in a great neighborhood. We have amazing friends. We build community. For me, that's a big one. We had a yoga session last night with 4 couples and an instructor that we hired and had a little bit of food and drinks for everybody. And to me, that's beautiful, that we're not so pressured by life and by all the problems of life because we've made some decisions that have made our life very, very nice. I lead the best life of anyone I know. And I don't just mean, oh, well, I drive a Maserati. I don't drive anything fancy. I don't have any jewelry. I don't even own a watch. I keep a very simple life, but I have an absolute beautiful life. It's very abundant and all of the things that I want in my life. And it's very doable. My wife and I have built that life for ourselves. And yeah, to me, it's having the time to do everything that I want to do with the people that I want to be with. And fortunately, I have that.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Don't speculate on real estate. Invest for cash flow, not the value that you think that property is going to be worth later, because that's irrelevant if you run out of cash, which happened to me. And I wanted to be a good person, and I paid on I had 5 rentals that were empty, and for a year I paid on them, all my property taxes, my mortgage, my HOAs, and that nearly bankrupted me at an early age. Early 30s, I had hit a millionaire status. I thought I was top of the world. I lost it all when the markets all crashed in real estate. And it was all because even though I did put massive down payments, I never put less than 20%. I've bought about 18 homes. I've never put less than 18%, 20% on a down payment. I don't want to pay principal mortgage insurance. So I thought I was coming in strong. But when you do the math, cash flow wasn't happening. I was losing a little every month, but I thought it's okay because it's going to double in price next year, like we're being told. So now I invest for cash flow. Everything has to be producing from day one. Otherwise, I'll gladly say no to an investment. I pass up more investment opportunities than I say yes to by far.
If you were to give an 18-year-old one specific piece of wisdom, what would it be?
I just got hired from a friend in EO to coach his 18-year-old, and I took him on a long hike yesterday. And we talked about a lot of stuff. But before he can organize himself, because this kid was telling me the goals that he has. He wants to be a professional hockey player, and he's a very good junior player. He wants to go to college, and he just got accepted. And he's got a lot of things in his life. But I started asking him, what don't you have? And he said, I don't have the fitness level that I have. I don't have the discipline that I have, that I want, right? There's a few things missing. I don't have the structure in my life, and I don't use my time to the best of my ability. Now, no 18-year-old is going to come out and say all those words. I got that out of an hour plus of hiking with heavy weights on our backs, up hills. Why? Because that breaks you down emotionally and mentally, and you'll be able to splur it out faster when you're suffering a little. Go on a jog with someone and see how deep the conversation can get real quick, because all the defenses go down because it's a fight or flight. So what I advised him, and I gave him homework to do for this week, was and I know this sounds simple. My advice is always simple, but there is something to it. is to organize himself. And how are we going to do that? With a calendar. Because I asked him, hey, next Saturday, this time, we're going to do a workout. You want to, some guys are local, some aren't, but he's local. So you want to come by and work out at my house. He wasn't sure what he had that day. And I said, I want to sign you up for a 5K to run it with me for a good charity cause. I'll pay for it. Come do this with me. And he wasn't sure what he had that day. And he couldn't make decisions on his life and his schedule because he wasn't clear. I'll have to check with my mom and like this. I have to see, we're going to have a tournament. I don't know what day that is. He's got a paper somewhere. Get your calendar in order and put everything in there, right? You and I would not be on this call on time and doing what we're doing if we have too many things in our life. We got to put it down somewhere. The best place is a Google Calendar, I think, for me, because I can access it. If all my devices blow up, I can go to your house and I know my password. I can log in and get in and I can see what I have. And that way I can start scheduling my day, my life, have no more downtime. When I have downtime, I know I have it. I don't miss anything. So that's the lesson I gave yesterday, specifically to an 18-year-old.
If people would like to learn more about you, the 31-day challenge, how do they go about doing that?
It's a simple website, 31dailychallenges.com. You could sign up. There's a men's challenge. There's a women's. You sign right up. There's no magic to it. You sign up. You'll hear from me or you'll hear from Jessica if you sign up for the women's. And then if you have any questions, you can hit the contact button. It goes to me and I will answer any questions anyone has.
Awesome. I will put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rocky. My pleasure.
Thanks for checking out this unedited video of the Richer Soul podcast. You can find the full episode along with all the back episodes at richersoul.com. This podcast is brought to you by Profit Comes First, where we help business owners to have a more profitable and growing business so they can live the life of their dreams. Check that out as well wherever you listen to all this content.